Hey, welcome to episode 3 of my podcast as I do an updated power rankings, especially after a rocket roller coaster of NFL Week 4 is finally over with the New York Giants losing at home 24-3 to the Seattle Seahawks, as I have the Seattle Seahawks ranked as my number 5 team, and I'm going to keep them there at number 5. But hey, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Let's start at the bottom. All right, the bottom needs its coverage. Okay, I know how it feels. Years past, not this year, but years past, I totally understand not getting covered, even though your team's losing. Okay, but let's not get distracted. As I have at number 32, I have the Carolina Panthers. They haven't moved at all. They're still my worst team. Bryce Young came back from his injury and didn't do so hot. Adam Thielen had 76 yards and 7 catches. They had the defensive back Franklin with the pick six, 99 yards, and still couldn't come with the win over the winless Minnesota Vikings. Tough game. Vikings came out on top, 24-13, and terrible, unfortunate loss. But yes, moving on, we have the Bears dumpster fire, as I've been saying, at 31. Has not moved from there. Luckily, they're not 32, but losing to Denver, another winless team in the shootout fashion at their home like they did, that was tough. 31-28. Justin Fields had an amazing performance of 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 335 yards passing, and it was a fantastic game. He threw the pick at the end. That's the only time he threw the interception. But yeah, I have Chicago Bears at 31. And for number 30, I have the Denver Broncos. Haven't moved them, even though they got the win over the winless Bears. I'm not going to give you too much credit there. Russell Wilson had 3 touchdowns. Whoopity-doo, he finally did something. So I'm going to keep him there. I mean, it's not too impressive. It was the winless Bears. Back to now, number 29. We have the Minnesota Vikings. Not too impressive either, beating the Carolina Panthers. So being 1-3, with their top performer being Justin Jefferson, having 2 touchdowns, even though he didn't have 100 yards, had 80 yards with a lot of catches. And hey, the Minnesota, they're taking their strides. The NFC North is slightly looking better with them winning a game, but the Bears sucking. Very unfortunate. If the season ended today, the Chicago Bears would have the number 1 overall pick and the number 2 overall pick because they have the Carolina Panthers first round pick because of their trade last year in the first round to get the number 1 overall pick with the DJ Moore trade. But yeah, moving on, not to get all caught up in the dumpster fire of the Bears. Yes, so we have the New York Jets. I leave them at the same spot at number 28. They had a great fight with the Kansas City Chiefs with 23-20. Even though they lost at home, it was a good fight. And then it was a tough call with the flag thrown on Sauce Gardner. That was a questionable thing. Could have changed the game. Zach Wilson actually did what he could. But yeah, I'm going to leave him at 28 with the sucky game. Lazard had a touchdown. Garrett Wilson had just under 50 yards. And not too impressive on the offensive front. But yeah, moving on. I have the New England Patriots, 27. After they got destroyed by Dallas Cowboys, 38-3, with the benching of Mac Jones in the third quarter, bringing in Zappy. Yeah, not too impressive. So I brought them down 6 spots. They're at 27. I only have them above the Jets because they beat the Jets the week prior, 15-10. So yeah, let's just leave it at that. The Patriots it's a dumpster fire, and then they're coming to a dumpster fire. We'll see if Bill Belichick is on the hot seat. Also, Matt Judon is injured. We'll see if he can be able to come back. That's a huge blow to their defense. And yeah, going forward. So yeah, now let's move on. We have the Las Vegas Raiders. I left them at the same spot, not moving up, with the record of 1-3. And this is tough. It's just they lost a rivalry to the Chargers. They didn't have Garoppolo starting. They had Aiden O'Connell. Khalil Mack had a historic day, 6 sacks in a game. That sets it for the team record. Defeating loss for the Raiders in a rivalry with Garoppolo out. Let's see they bounce back and move on. I have at 25, I have the Arizona Cardinals. I left them at the same spot. They just had a tough loss, a rivalry game to the San Francisco 49ers. At least they put up 16 points on the board against a defense like that. They had an impressive rookie game. His name is Michael Wilson, who had 2 touchdowns, 76 yards, and he was a complete 7 for 7, 100% completion rate. Great. And Marquise Brown, even though he had a thumb injury, had a great game as well. Moving on, we also have the Giants staying at their spot after a tough loss tonight on Monday Night Football to Seattle, 24-3. I'm leaving at 24. They didn't have anybody I could think of to put on here for offensive stats for you guys, and it's tough. Like you thought I could, but no, I picked them to win. I don't know what I'm thinking. That's a tough team to root for at the moment. I feel bad for them. Now at 23, I had the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm moving them down 3 after they just got blown out by the Tennessee Titans. It was a tough game. Jamar Chase had 7 catches, 78 yards. T. Higgins went down. That was very unfortunate. But yeah, hopefully Joe Burrow can muster this team back. Out of all these 1-3 teams, this is the last 1-3 team before I move on. I believe in them the most out of all of them. That's why I have them the highest, because Joe Burrow, I believe, is the best quarterback out of all these 1-3 teams that I listed, and went on from there. Now moving on, we have at rank 22, we have the Atlanta Falcons with Drake London having the only touchdown of the game, the only score of the game for the Atlanta Falcons in London. Tough game for them. I brought them down 7 whole spots to rank 22. We'll see what they do from there. Didn't look too well against Jacksonville Jaguars. Right above them, I have Jacksonville Jaguars as they just beat the Atlanta Falcons with Calvin Ridley having a nice touchdown. Christian Kirk having 82 yards, also doing some kick returns and punt returns. That was cool to see. Defense held well. They were getting the sacks, and they also had the pick 6, which was cool to see. So yeah, I have Jacksonville there. Now, this is my whole AFC South. These are all 2-2-2. They're all tied. So I have them all right next to each other. So just listening the Jags, I moved them up 1 spot from my previous episode. So now on to episode number 20 of my ranking. We have the Houston Texans. As I move them up 3 whole spots, as they coming off a victory over Pittsburgh, 30-3, I believe. It was a dominant victory. Nico Collins had an amazing game with 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. C.J. Stroud was winging it, and it was great to see Will Anderson is being dominant, very underestimated as a top defensive rookie. And yeah, so and then moving on, so I move up 3 up. So now we have 19. We have the Indianapolis Colts. I moved them down 5. I basically switched them with the Rams, as I'll show you coming up. I have the Rams now at 14, and I had the Colts originally at 14, so I just flipped them because the Rams actually just beat the Colts. So that's why it was the perfect game, the perfect way to set the rankings for me in this one. But yeah, so now that we know the Rams are a better team, I put them above and put the Colts here. So the whole AFC South, this actually works out. The whole AFC South is all better up together. But Anthony Richardson, that was a tongue twister, had 2 touchdowns, which was great to see. He's doing great, fantastic development. We also have, the Tennessee Titans now at rank 18 to move on. They just blew out the Cincinnati Bengals, which was my highest rated 1-3 team. They, They are going to be, that's the thing. They're up and down. They got blown up the week prior to the Browns, and then they just blew out the Bengals. So they're all over. They're and that's an AFC North. Both of those are AFC North opponents. Derrick Henry had a great game. He had a 1 touchdown. It was great to see, and 122 yards. And yeah, so it was him coming out. He had a terrible week before, but bounced back now. So yeah, that was it for the AFC South. At 18 is the highest team I have in that division, which is the Tennessee Titans, having them at 2 for 2 with this last blowout of the Cincinnati Bengals. Now I have at rank 17, I have the Los Angeles Chargers. I moved them up 1 spot as they beat their rival Las Vegas Raiders. It was cool to see that Chargers had a good game with, as I was saying earlier, Khalil Mack with the historic game. That was impressive. 6 sacks. Justin Herbert, did what he needed to do to seal the game. hopefully the Chargers can move on with this momentum. Now moving on, we have the Browns at rank 16, the Cleveland Browns, or the Cleveland Elves, whatever mascot they want to choose, the Cleveland Bulldogs. I never know. They went down. I gave them respect last week, and that was too much respect. And I'm gonna move them down 10 whole spots after getting beat like they did to the Ravens. A rivalry game. They didn't even put up a fight. Deshaun Watson, they didn't have him in. That's tough. I know he's a different quarterback, but they just got destroyed. I mean, Lamar Jackson had 4 total touchdowns in general. I mean, he just dominated, made it look easy. Moving on. Tough ranking loss there. I don't know why I ranked him so high. Now we have at rank 15, we have Washington Commanders losing to the Philadelphia Eagles in overtime. It was a tough loss. I picked them to win. They were the only team to beat Philadelphia Eagles last year, and they made it the best. They were the best team so far they played this year, and losing that tough game in overtime. It was very unfortunate to see. But so I gave them respect. So I moved them up 1 spot, even though they lost to 15. Now, like I was saying earlier, at ranked 15 or 14. Now my top 15 teams. The Washington Commanders top it off there. At 14, as I was talking about earlier, I had the Los Angeles Rams. They were looking great, beating the Colts. Puka Nakuna is doing fantastic. He had a touchdown. 163 yards with 9 catches for 10 targets. As long as Stafford's on the field, they're competitive, the Rams are. So, I have them ranked 14, just above my ranked 15 team at 2-2. Now you're going to start seeing me say a lot of teams that stayed in the same rankings. They didn't show much. Also didn't not get me too mad about them, where I was let me bring them down a lot of rankings like I did the Cleveland Browns, because the Cleveland Browns, they did not show against the Ravens, so that's why I brought them down so much. So now we have the Green Bay Packers. They lost to my Detroit Lions on Thursday prime time. That's what I'm talking about, at their home. Now it's our home. We run the North. We own the North. It was fantastic to see. Dominant. I picked that. I knew it was going to happen. David Montgomery, 3 touchdowns, over 100 yards, coming off injury with 122 yards. It was fantastic to see. But yeah, in terms of Green Bay, their top performer was Romeo Doubs, who had 95 yards and I believe 8 catches. And then Christian Watson had a touchdown. Yeah, it was very, very unfortunate the Packers did not look too all right. The game was stolen from David Bakhtiari. Injury was apparent on the O-line, as we were definitely getting pressure in there. So yeah, moving on. We have the New Orleans Saints. Even though the crushing blow at home to the Bucks, I left them with the same ranking at 12. I believe in this team. I believe they'll bounce back. They showed enough, even though they lost. It's just the game got away from them. There was a key turnover that they should have got the touchback on, got on the one. Then they turned it over. That game got even more lost away from them. So yeah, I'm going to leave them at 12. And their top performer was Alvin Kamara with 13 receptions, career high, and probably that's amazing. It's uncommon. That's just, especially in first game back from his 3-game suspension. So yeah, that's fantastic to see. And that offense will be getting better with him finally getting in the rhythm. And at 11, I left the Steelers there, even though they lost to Houston Texans. I believe that they can bounce back. We'll see. The quarterback went down mid-game. It's hard to bounce, but we'll see how they bounce now. Now they'll have time to get some practices in, get accustomed, get Mitchell Trubisky ready to go, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, the Steelers, they didn't have too much of a game. I didn't write anything down. Top performer, nothing impressive. Najee Harris was their top performer. He had under 50 yards rushing. And so yeah, moving on from that. Now the Bucks. That was all my 500 teams. I have the Tampa Bay Bucks now at my top 10. All my top 10 teams above have a positive record. So at number 10, I have the Tampa Bay Bucks, as they just beat the Saints at home, with their top performer being Chris Godwin with 114 yards. It was fantastic to see. Baker Mayfield is going to be the starting quarterback for sure. And the Tampa Bay Bucks technically own the NFC South. I have them my highest ranked NFC South team as I'm looking right now in my rankings. Yeah. So at number 10, Tampa Bay Bucks. I did not see this coming, but they're here, and with that defense, they're rocking, and that offense, and it's gonna be good. Mike Evans didn't even have a fantastic game, and he can have fantastic games, and we've seen that early in the season. So now moving on, we have the Ravens at 9, coming off a great win, beating Cleveland Browns with Lamar Jackson having 4 total touchdowns. It was amazing to see. He looks like an MVP form. Now we had the Dallas Cowboys. I left them at their same ranking at 8. Not too impressive. They just beat up the New England Patriots. Not too impressive. I mean, it's great for them to bounce back after the loss to the Arizona Cardinals. And their top performer, CeeDee Lamb, he had a touchdown. The defense for them had 2 touchdowns for the Cowboys. That's what carried the team. That's what's going to have to carry the team. And we'll see how it goes from there. And then at number 7, yours truly, we have the Detroit Lions. I left them at the same spot. Even though we beat the Packers, I want to move them up. There's other teams that did other stuff. I like us right at 7. We'll see. We need to beat more impressive opponents. I know we beat the Chiefs, and I know a lot of people will get on me for that, but I'm gonna leave them at number 7. Even let's just leave them there. Now for and this is what I have. I have the Bills at 6. I moved them 3 whole spots from 9 because they beat my number 1, the Miami Dolphins, key rivalry game at their home, 48-20, and that was dominant. I mean, Josh Allen had 4 touchdowns, 320 yards, and then Stephon Diggs had 3 touchdowns, 120 yards. It was a dominant victory over my number 1 team. So I had to put them. They had an impressive win compared to us just beating up our rivalry Packers compared to their rivalry Dolphins. So yeah, I put them at 6. Now at 5, the Seattle Seahawks, as they just came off their Monday night victory over the Giants. It's not too impressive, even though it's at New York's home. I was worried about Geno. He came back in the game. Kenneth Walker was their top performer. DK Metcalf had a nice touchdown. And yeah, the Steelers. Oh yeah, and then their rookie had the interception. So did what was his name? Jamal Adams. He had another interception. So yeah, it was a bad day for the Giants. But so I'm gonna leave the Seahawks where they are. You're just beating up the New York Giants. Not too impressive, but they beat the Detroit Lions, so they definitely have to be above us. So I'm gonna have them ranked at number 5. So at rank 4, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. I left them at the same spot. They beat the New York Jets, not too impressive, at their home. It was a close game. They almost lost that. I was about to drop them so hard they lost to the Jets. So I'm going to leave them there. Nothing too impressive. Isaiah Pacheco had a great game, over 115 yards and a touchdown. It was great to see him be the lead rushing back and take over the team like we saw in last postseason. Moving on, we had the Miami Dolphins. I brought them down 2 whole spots. They were my number 1 team. Now I have them as my number 3 team. And yeah, that was a tough loss, even though Devin Achane had 2 touchdowns. Waddle had a touchdown called back. I didn't get my Waddle dance. And yeah, it was unfortunate. But hey, it's what happens in the game. They'll bounce back. We'll see what Tim Armstead left during the game. Well, I hope for his healthy return. The offense desperately needs him. But yeah, I have them ranked at 3. Now at rank 2, I have the San Fran 46ers. I just left them there. They had a dominant victory over the rival, the Arizona Cardinals. It was impressive. Christian McCaffrey was amazing. 3 rush touchdowns, 1 reception touchdown, 4 total touchdowns, and over 100 yards. It was great to see. And now for my number 1, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. I moved them up a spot. It was great. A.J. Brown had 2 touchdowns, 170 yards. Fantastic, dominant victory, or it was they pulled away victory over the rival, the Washington Commanders, so I have them as my number 1 team. Yeah, so it was great to see. That was a very impressive game, and they came out. So they are definitely at top of the NFC East. I can't wait for them to verse the Cowboys. So yeah, that is Dayvin Sports Convo's Power Rankings, current Power Rankings. I hope you all enjoyed that. And it's also my recap with my top performers. I kind of mixed it all together. That's what I'll probably do from now on. In the future, just do my recap with my power rankings, go break down each and every team in my ranking with their top performer of the previous game and move on forward. But tune in and check out my live stream as I go live Wednesday to do my NFL Week 5 game picks. Check them out and check me out at 6 p.m. Eastern. See you then. It's going to be a great time. Yeah, I'm getting in before the night gets too carried away from us. And I definitely appreciate everybody that watched my Toy Story watch party. It was a historic day. I hope for future Toy Story Fun Day football or other animation game coverages of that fashion. And this is Dayvin Sports Convo, and it's me, Dayvin, your host. Thank you for checking my episode 3 of my podcast, and I appreciate everybody. Tune in, check me out next time.